Hi, how are you? I hope you're having a great day. A new study released in May of 2022 found that fibromyalgia patients show different amounts and species of bile metabolizing gut bacteria, and also show different concentrations of bile acids in the blood, secondary bile acids, compared to healthy people. These secondary bile acids are distinct enough to be used as an effective biological signature to detect fibromyalgia. Whew, that's good news. 6 specific secondary bile acids were used to detect fibromyalgia with 90% accuracy. Future research would hopefully corroborate these findings. So it's not set in stone yet. If corroborated, one specific secondary bile acid called alpha muracolic acid, or this, would be identified as 5 times less present in fibromyalgia patients. In this study, the lack of this acid correlates with most of the fibromyalgia symptoms, including pain, fatigue, unrefreshed sleep, and cognitive complaints. DNA sequencing and artificial intelligence were used. What they also discovered was that the alterations to specific bile acids were not associated with irritable bowel syndrome or depressive disorder. That's an important finding because most of us have IBS or depression, and this shows those conditions aren't creating these unusual bile acids, but does show that fibromyalgia is real, like we didn't know that, and could provide effective treatments for fibromyalgia patients. So this is what I'd like to talk about today. Here we go. Bile acids are a natural fluid your body makes in the liver and are crucial for digestion because they break down oil, fat, and nutrients so our body can absorb them efficiently. Bile acids also remove certain toxins. The common bile duct moves the acid from the liver to the gallbladder, where it's stored until you eat. When you eat, the gallbladder contracts and releases this bile into your stomach. Once the bile is in your stomach and small intestine, the acids help to break down food and nutrients so your body can absorb them. And then once in your colon, bile acids are reabsorbed back into the bloodstream to be used again. But if bile acids aren't absorbed properly, bile acid malabsorption occurs. This is a condition that occurs when the intestine can't absorb the bile acids properly. Diarrhea occurs because of the extra bile acid in the intestines. Salt and water from bile acids prevent stools from properly forming. This also leads to bloating, or it could be from Crohn's disease, celiac disease, small intestine diseases, pancreatic diseases, or small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Primary bile acids are where it all begins. They are synthesized from cholesterol in the liver and further metabolized by the gut microbiome into secondary bile acids. Bile acids are first stored in the gallbladder or released into the duodenum of the small intestine to facilitate absorption of triglycerides, cholesterol, and lipid-soluble vitamins. This means that bile acids eliminate cholesterol from the body, then converts it to bile acid, and eventually we eliminate it through fecal route. Primary bile acids have an antibacterial role, often through modulation of genes. Another common problem with bile is bile reflux. Bile will back up or refluxes into your stomach, and in some cases, backs into the esophagus. Bile can't normally get into the stomach because there's a one-way valve between the stomach and small intestine. That's called the pylorus. It opens to allow food to empty from the bottom of the stomach into the intestine. But if the pylorus is damaged or fails to work correctly, bile and other digestive fluids from the intestine can enter the stomach and cause inflammation and irritation. Bile reflux is different from gastric reflux. Gastric reflux is a reflux of stomach acid that backs into your esophagus when the esophageal sphincter doesn't work properly. That may lead to GERD, called gastroesophageal reflux disease, a potentially serious problem that causes irritation and inflammation of the esophageal tissue. Unlike gastric acid reflux, bile reflux can't be completely controlled by changes in diet or lifestyle, which I haven't been successful at anyways. Treatment involves medications or, in severe cases, surgery, where the surgeon creates a new valve at the top of the stomach. Medications for both types of refluxes usually begin with an acid-blocking drug called proton pump inhibitors. In addition, bile reflux and acid reflux can be present at the same time. If symptoms are not treated, gastritis, ulcers, or bleeding can occur. To be perfectly honest, I didn't know there was a difference. The authors of this study, called Altered Serum Bile Acid Profile in Fibromyalgia is Associated with Specific Gut Microbiome Changes and Symptom Severity, suggest that serum bile acid alterations are implicated in nociplastic pain. Nociplastic pain is what fibro is currently being referred to as. Here is a video on that. This is a quote from the study. The changes observed in the composition of the gut microbiota and the concentration of circulating secondary bile acids seem congruent with the phenotype of increased nociception and are quantitatively correlated with symptom severity, unquote. Basically, alterations in the relative abundance of several bacterial species or microbiome known to metabolize bile acids were found in women with fibromyalgia. That doesn't mean they wouldn't be present in men. Microbiomes are vital to maintaining overall health by destroying harmful bacteria and controlling our immune system. They are microbes, bacterial species, that live in our digestive system. We know that bile acids can affect multiple physiological processes, including visceral pain, that pain that's deep and felt in the organs, and can affect our mental health. Only a small portion of nutrients are absorbed through the walls of our stomach. The majority of that work occurs in our small intestine, where 90% of all nutrients are absorbed. A healthy microbiome can reduce the risk of obesity, heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. If your gut is trying to tell you something, try changing your diet by avoiding maybe a high-fat diet and limit processed foods. Diets high in fruit, I have to be careful of high-acid fruits, the vegetables, whole grains, although some of us may have a gluten sensitivity, so gluten-free would probably be better. Something like oats might be a good alternative in changing your diet. Now, secondary bile acids are produced when the conjugate bile acids, a reaction that disrupts the system, progresses into the large bowel. Members of the microbiome utilize bile acids and their conjugates, resulting in agonism of FXR, a receptor, in the intestine and liver, resulting in a smaller, unconjugated, hydrophobic bile acid pool. This is associated with disease states. They are further metabolized by the microbiota. Reduced bile acid levels in the gut are associated with bacterial overgrowth and inflammation. Diet, antibiotic therapy, age, and disease affect the balance of the microbiome bile acid pool. High colonic concentrations of secondary bile acids have been proposed to promote inflammation and carcinogenesis. Cancer. So we need the right balance of microbiomes in our system. So secondary bile acids are a result of bacterial actions in the colon. Bile acid pool size and composition appear to regulate gut microbiomes in humans. That's important. The inability to convert cholesterol can cause systemic disease. Impaired levels of bile acids are associated with cardiometabolic diseases such as obesity, dyslipidemia, and diabetes. And low bile acids entering the intestine are linked to cirrhosis of the liver. Our intestinal epithelium is the first line of defense against noxious agents and pathogens. Malfunction of this immune homeostasis may induce chronic inflammation. Low concentrations, secondary bile acids can generate cellular membrane perturbing effects and result in signaling cascades that induce COX-2 expression. Through a transactivation of the epidermal growth factor receptor, EGFR. And I just did a video on that too, on inflammatory neuropathy, or what's called neuronopathies. Researchers stated in 2019, quote, because gut dysbiosis alters the production of secondary bile acids and short-chain fatty acids, and leads to colonic inflammation. Balancing nutrient intake with high fiber and low saturated fat intake is critical for maintaining a healthy microbiome, unquote. So the purpose of this video is to highlight the importance of having good microbiomes in our gut so that our secondary bile acids are working properly as they should. After researching this topic, I'm sure that my gut microbiomes are out of whack. That's my technical term. Recently, I've seen a lot of ads on SEED, S-E-E-D, a daily symbiotic product. I'm wondering if any of you have been taking it and how it's working. Does it help? It costs about $50 a month, so it's an investment. And before I order it, I was hoping to get some reviews from you. I mean, it sounds awesome. I put a link below so you can read about it. I mean, this isn't sponsored or anything. Truly just curious. I hope you learned something. I send you gentle hugs and support. Love you. N species of bile. If corroborated, the common bile duct moves the acid from the liver to the gallbladder. Salt and water from bile. Gastric acids are different from gastric reflux. Proton pump called known to metabolize, and eventually we eliminate it are linked to cirrhosis of the liver. No. Quote, because, in short, in addition,